Justin, and I hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it, and just remember, Jesus loves you.
Hi guys, just to let you know, we've got a brand new website, drcharlie.ward.com, where all our videos will be loaded over the next few weeks, and you'll be able to view all of those there's no charge for watching any of those. We've moved them all onto our own platform because all the doctor ones, which are very, very important, have been taken down, so we've now got control over those, but every single video we post will be free to watch. That's very important for you to know. The other thing is we're getting an awful lot of people asking us about gold and silver. And I've always been an advocate of gold and silver. And myself, I'm not in a position to give financial advice. I'm not qualified to do so. I'm just going to tell you what I've personally done. I've personally bought gold and silver, and I've used a company that I trust, which is shown below here. They've always looked after me well. And if you order from them more than £250 worth, you get a free 1 ounce silver coin, which is very, very nice. It's a nice little gift. But this is not an endorsement. This is just what I have done personally, and it's up to you. It's your choice. As I said, I'm not qualified to give the advice on financial advice, but it's just what I have done personally. And I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you enjoy watching all of my videos. Thank you.
At any rate, I've got some news for you. As you know, I've been working on your book, repositioning you, bringing you to, my goal was to get you to #1 best-selling author. And I can say that you have reached #1 best-selling author. Congratulations. Well done.
Wow.
Yay. And so the goal from here out is next week, I'm planning, my game plan is that we'll have you as an international best-selling author by the end of, well, I don't know the end of this week, maybe into next week. Because, yeah, isn't that exciting?
It's incredible, isn't it? What a journey.
Yeah.
Who would have thought it, eh?
It's a great book. I have it right here, this, and it is a great book. Yeah, I don't have a signed autograph copy yet, but hint, hint.
Well, for the record, I haven't signed a single book yet.
Really?
Not one.
Well,
I'm waiting for the Coffee Top book to come out, which we've spent a lot of time and effort into getting absolutely right. And I'm sure the right time will come along to sign a book. And I've been asked by a lot of people, but at the moment, I can honestly say that I haven't signed one.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, last weekend, I would have had you signing it, but you couldn't get over the border.
Exactly right. Not even my wife has a signed one yet.
Oh, well, got to do that for her. Happy life, as we say, right?
Exactly right. Yes. Exactly right.
Yeah. So anyways, I just wanted to drop that news for you and say congratulations.
Brilliant news. Absolutely brilliant. No, I appreciate your help because obviously it was something that I was approached 10 years ago to do, and I didn't do it. And then it felt like the right time to do it this time. And because there's so much going on. Yeah. With what this journey has only just started. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of information going to come out over the next month. I can't say much more than that right now, but that would fill a book, but just by itself. In what's about to happen and how the world is about to change. The world changed for me 5 years ago from what I was doing, and then again a year ago. And I'm very grateful for those changes. It's been amazing. It changed 10 years ago when I met my wife, obviously. I went from being a naughty boy to being a good boy.
Yeah, that's I love your wife. She is amazing, and I can see why you two are a very nice match, definitely. So I was going to ask you today, have you got any news? What can you give us a tidbit of? But I had a dream this morning, and as you know, I get a lot of lucid dreams. I speak with spirit, and the thing that I got this morning was that many people are becoming addicted to what's next, what's next, what's next. And by doing so, they're becoming observers rather than participants in their own lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so the message that I got this morning was that we as observers need to participate more. We need to rise up, stand up, and speak up, and change things. My dog is trying to break down the door right now. Can you hear that? She's like banging against the door. She wants in. She can feel the energy in here.
Yeah.
That is amazing. She's like this big, and she's bamming against the door. But yeah, that's the message that I was getting this morning, was that, you know, rather than observing in life, we really need to start participating more and speaking up.
I totally agree. And I used to do a bit of motivational speaking in the past about success, and the basics of success in life, in anything. You can have all the goodwill and good intention in the world, but unless you get off your backside and do something, nothing ever happens. And if you want to be the best, you can want it as much as you want, but you have to put the groundwork in, and you have to do things. Nothing has changed. The more you put into life, the more you get out of life. If you put nothing in, you get nothing out. And that's very, very poignant right now. A lot of people are wanting things to change, but not doing anything to make things change. And so we underestimate the power of our own spirit, the power of what we have inside of us. I've stood up against the police, I've stood up against the military, and I've stood up against the courts, but not aggressively, just pointing out the truth. And they didn't like it, of course, but I'm sure they went away and investigated what I was saying. Even with customs on the border with Portugal, when I started talking in a normal way to them about pointing out things, their attitude was very, very nice. It was like, yep, we agree with you, but our bosses say this, and we have to do what our bosses say. And I sort of get that, because they're under control. And these sort of people, there's rank and file in the military, in the police force, in customs, in government. And if the boss says jump, they just say how high. They don't ask why. But it was very clear with customs on the border that they knew what was right, but it wasn't down to them. It's down to their bosses saying, do this. And these are people who've got to feed their families. So they're going with what their bosses say, because they need the money to feed the families. So they're between a rock and a hard place. And it's then left to people like you and I, who, I'm retired. I've got all the time in the world to investigate. I'll go out and do the footwork for you all, and find out the truth. But when I find out the truth, at least have the courtesy to listen. Because I'm getting some people go, well, how do you know that's right? I said, because I've done over 10,000 hours of research. It's not just a shot in the dark. And their only research is
anything. Sorry, you wouldn't say anything without a lot of backing, and nor would I. You know, we have to do our homework, because you don't want egg on the face, and you certainly can't be in a position where you said something and it turns out to be, you know, inaccurate.
There's also things that it's very interesting, that because I'm learning, I've never been in the public eye like this before, and people can take things and turn it around to suit themselves. And I've likened it a few years ago to an advert on the television from Peugeot for the Peugeot 206. And a young lad has bought this new Peugeot 206, and he's driving it, and a young lady is looking at it with bright eyes and going, is that your car? And his little chest comes out, yeah, it's my car, you know, he's really proud. And then he drives off and he goes to his mate's house, and his mate's gone, is that your car? And of course, he's really chuffed, and it's the same words. Then he goes around the corner and parks outside the bank, and it's a traffic warden comes up to him and he goes, is that your car? It's exactly the same words said by somebody different. And you have to realize that people can
to manipulate the same words because it comes from a different direction.
Truly.
And what I've said is in my book, which you know, it's my truth. It's not your truth. It's not their truth. It's not somebody else's truth. It's not what somebody else says. It's my truth. And this is what we need to get to. Every single person out there needs to know what their truth is. And the other thing that's relevant is my perspective of the Mediterranean is very different to a diver's, but it's the same body of water. And his perspective is correct. Truly. And so is mine. And it doesn't make him wrong just because he's seeing it from the bottom up and I'm seeing it from the top down. And that's where we need to understand each other.
Very much.
You can have a different perspective. Sorry. Anyway.
No, I was actually going to ask what happened at the border, because you had sent communication and said I got stopped at the border. So what actually happened there? You were there for what, 2 hours, hour and a half, 2 hours?
Yeah, something like 2 hours there.
So was it a roadblock or? Yeah,
there was a police roadblock, and we'd already sent in advance consent to travel. And we got there, and it was fairly clear they knew we were coming. Because there was a lot of them there. But I got out and fronted them up and just dealt with it in a professional manner. And they were, well, you know, you're not allowed to come in. And I said, well, I don't know that because I've got consent here to travel. Yeah, but that's in Spanish and English. And this is Portugal. And I was like, does that make a difference? Is Spain and Portugal in the European Union? And they were like, yes, but England isn't. I said, is that relevant? So they were making up excuses that were completely irrelevant. And it was very, very typical of their mentality, like, wait there, do this, do this. And I just did what they said, but in a humble manner. And then I went and contacted my lawyer. My lawyer sent through another documentation, which they made us wait another half an hour. And then they just basically sent us an email back saying, you're not allowed to cross. We're not granting you access due to COVID-19 restrictions. And they quoted a law which doesn't exist. So I just then talked to them and I pointed out that the law has never been verified. It's not a law, it's a mandate. And they said, look, we know, you know, but they're the bosses and they won't talk to you. They send us to talk to you. So I said, well, I don't blame you. So on purpose, as a tester, I put my hand out to shake their hand. And both of them shook my hand without question. And I thank them for their time. But yeah, we're living in a time where there's a lot of people out there that know that something's wrong. People are waking up on a grand scale. They know something's wrong. I talked to 2 women yesterday and they were struggling to breathe. And I said, why on earth are you wearing a mask? Well, we have to. So you don't have to. I don't have to. I've taken the steps to get a letter from my doctor that says I should not wear one. So I've protected myself from the egotistical maniacs that are out there. And the 2 women said, when we're at the school, the Spanish women shout at us if we don't wear the mask. And we can't be bothered to be shouted at. So the bullying is coming from their side, whereas when I get bullied, I try and point out the truth to them and all they do is shout at me.
So I find it interesting because in Canada, where I'm from, many years ago, probably about, I don't know, 5 years ago, we had an anti-bullying campaign, you know, those bullies in the playground and bullies at work, you know, shame on them for bullying you. And this is exactly what we were seeing right across the board. Right? We were in IKEA at the very beginning of the whole pandemic. And my husband's mask came down below his nose. Well, We had two regular citizens, Portuguese citizens, that started screaming at him, "Get that up, get up!" You know, there was such fear. And I turned to her and I said, "My goodness, you're so fearful." And she goes, "Yes, I'm fearful." And so I started to share with her some stats, and it went, you know.
Yep.
But the bullying, I think, is the thing that has become the norm.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and this is why we need to stop being so passive and being observers and actually start to speak up. And you know, I went to my doctors to get an exempt because of heart issues. You know, can't you know, diminish my oxygen intake. And in Portugal, they won't give any exempts. There are no exemptions for mask wearing in Portugal. I was shocked. Yeah.
Well, that breaks
Not
the
allowed. So no matter what your health issue.
Yeah, that breaks the European Union mandate that you can't discriminate against people who don't wear a mask. That's actually a mandate that came from the European Council. But yeah, there's a number of doctors. The biggest problem you've got is doctors are being paid by the big pharma,
right,
to vaccinate and to not do this. So you have to find a doctor who's outside of that payroll, and they're not. There's not many of them. There's 1,000 in Spain now that have come together.
Well, I don't know if you know that we actually had to take my mother-in-law's nursing home to the wall. We actually had to get our lawyer involved because they were going to do mandatory vaccination in England on the seniors. And we phoned up and said no. The doctor tried to shame us, tried to bully us. And she was, you know, the shame coming out of that woman's mouth was horrific. And so we actually had to get our lawyer involved. And finally, after getting the lawyer involved, they backtracked, and now we're able to show how, you know, the COVID in nursing homes was flatlined. And as soon as they started to bring in the vaccination, guess what? It started to climb again.
Through the roof.
And it's gone through the roof. Yeah.
There's more people died of the vaccination than COVID-19.
Yeah. So we know all of that. It's just a matter of stop being so passive and being an observer and start getting out there and actually speaking up, phoning all of your, you know, in Canada, it would be MPs, MLAs, in England, members of parliament. I know that majority are corrupt. We know that, but they are guiding their position on how much pressure they're getting. And so, you know, there may be a pushback initially, but if enough of us, you know, start to actually become vocal, they will soon realize that the gig is up. And
I think they realize already, and they're still fighting. It's a bit like a boxer who's out on his feet. They're out on their feet right now. They're throwing haymakers all over the place. But the truth is coming out, and it's embarrassing now for them. So, no, we just keep the pressure on them, but we're very, very close to the end.
Well, we can see it in your book sales. You know, I want to go back to your book there because I can see it in your book sales in the United Kingdom. You know, your ranking in the book, it hasn't shown through yet because I put in, like I said, you know, I think it was 160, 180 in total categories, but it takes 72 hours for them to come through. And I have to follow up because they're not all coming through yet. But in the UK, you're in the top 20 of sales right now. And not all of the books, like in your paperback version, they're still, the rankings still are in the old ranking, which were you were under textbook. Well, you're not a textbook, you know, you're a memoir. And and what wrong book? You're a memoir. And so, you know, in the UK, you're in the top 20, but in the United States and Canada, I was surprised with Canada. You have a huge following in Canada, Australia, United States. You were telling me Belgium, and you can see that in the sales, right? So Canada, you are number one in 7 categories. already.
Wow.
It's just like taken off, especially with media, with broadcast journalism, media and culture. Those are the people are loving your show, and they're supporting you and wanting to learn more about you. So you're number one in Canada and United States. United States, you're number 1 to number 4. You've been bouncing back for a week now, between 2 and 4, and then it went to number 1. So number 1 to number 4 in 7 categories as well. And you're now for sale in 17 countries around the world. It's been a lot of work, but we're getting you there. You have no idea the hours I put in, man.
Exactly.
But yeah, you went from like 102 to number 1, and 102,000, I should say, right? Because
wow,
the book wasn't categorized properly. It was just uploaded, and so it went into a random category that was picked, and so I was able to go in and we put you in the proper categories, and man, it shows. I mean, your sales are amazing, and so now you're number 1 best-selling author, and you can actually say international because it is Canada, United States, and the UK. So UK, of course, is England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, right?
yeah, incredible.
So yeah, you're a top best-selling author in all of those countries now. So
amazing.
yeah,
Absolutely amazing.
Well done. Congratulations.
For a 60-year-old granddad, not bad.
Not bad at all.
It's taken me a lifetime to become an overnight success.
Isn't that the truth? It's a 10-year cycle, right? 10 years of broadcast journalism. But what I love is you have a lot of photographs in your book, and it really tells the story of all the people that have touched your life. It's really interesting. Like, you really opened up your world. I always wondered about your wife. Who was this woman that captured your heart? And it was really nice to learn more about your beautiful wife. So
she's an amazing human being.
Isn't she?
We're about to, we exposed last night something that's massive news in the world. And this will explain something. I did an interview yesterday, which was absolutely amazing. Most people know that the Vatican, when that was raided, there was certain documentation that was very, very important. For those people who didn't know, there was supposed to be something exposed in 1960 by the Vatican, which they failed to disclose. And God was pretty angry in the 60s about why this matter wasn't disclosed. There's a lot of books of the Bible that are missing, which we know from the books of Enoch, and we know from other things. There's a lot of information missing. But the very interesting thing that I love more than anything on this journey is there are 2 names that have been taken out of the Bible of very important people.
And who's that?
The Prophet Muhammad and Fatima. Who was his wife.
Right.
So the Christians and the Muslims are exactly the same. They're in bed together. They're on the same page. But the political arena, the political arena and the Vatican wanted to divide us to make it easier to control.
Well, of course, that's what it's all been about, is church and state and controlling since the Dark Ages.
I'm living proof, because I was born a Christian and my wife was born a Muslim. And I tell you what, you couldn't have a better bond.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I don't know if you know, but one of my dear friends is Sheikh Abdulaziz Al Nuami. He is the Prince of Ashman.
Yeah.
And he's like my brother.
Yeah.
We've traveled to, the UAE, stayed at the palace. My daughters are really close with his sons, and I learned more about the Muslim faith through him. I was embarrassed to go to Dubai and realize that, wow, I've been duped. This was many years ago. This is in 2010. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I believed all the media stuff on Muslims and ooh, beware, right? They were the next enemies as such. And couldn't be further from the truth. Most beautiful people. I can see why it is the #1 fastest growing faith on this planet.
there's a humility with that family that you're referring to, and
Yes.
most of the families in that part of the world that is unsurpassed in the rest of the world. I mean, they're such humble people. I love going to the Majlis of one of the palaces that I go to for iftar, for the breaking of the fast, because they do not discriminate between whether you're a Christian, a Jew, a Sunni, a Shia, a Sikh, whatever. They don't. There's every single faith there, and they're welcomed in, and they pray together. And I don't understand Arabic, but I listen, and the feeling is warm.
Isn't it though? Yeah, that's what I found. We went to, the Sheikh brought us to Abu Dhabi, and we went to the largest mosque, in the world. And they had a side room where we could try on a hijab and abaya and, the outfit, right? And at first I was like, I remember clucking my tongue thinking, women, in Canada, you'd see someone in a hijab and abaya, and I think, oh, you should tell your husband that, you can wear whatever you damn well please. And when we were there, I encouraged my daughters, if you want to try it on, you can. If you don't, that's fine. Well, we all got into the hijab and abaya to go into the mosque. You didn't have to, but it was something that was offered, that if you want to give it a try, go ahead. Well, the silky feeling, the freedom that you had in this outfit in the heat, I was like, I get it. Oh my gosh, you feel, believe it or not, you feel sexy in it. You feel,
I agree.
Yeah, you feel absolutely free in the wardrobe, and it is designed for the heat. People will say, well, it's all black. No, there is something about, you feel really, really beautiful in it. And I can see why, there is I don't know, it was a freedom.
I have a kandora.
Do you? Yeah.
That I wear in the Middle East a lot, and I love it. I love the freedom that it gives you.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And in the heat of day, amazing. And it's very interesting because people say, look, your first reaction, you don't need to wear that. Most of the women I've spoken to in the Middle East go, we like it, Charlie.
Yes, exactly.
It's our choice. It's our choice. And the other thing that's very important with it is it's a bit like uniform at school, where there's not the one-upmanship of the world that we live in.
That's right. That was actually going to be my point as well, is that you don't have to worry about, what am I going to wear today? Because it is it is right across the board, but some of them are beautiful. They're silk, and they're absolutely stunning feeling, right? And I don't know, it was just the other thing about the Middle East that was a real surprise to me, especially in the UAE, was that women were extremely powerful within the family.
Yes. Oh God,
the women run the household. Yeah. They run the businesses. They are news anchors. News anchors were like short skirts. They wore, blouses, whatever they wanted to wear. And in Parliament, this was the really big thing, because at the time in Canada, we were not equal 50-50, female and men in Parliament. That was more a recent thing. But back in 2010, in the UAE, they actually have a parliament, right? And 50% of those cabinet ministers in Parliament were women. And most people don't know that. So then I had to go back and go, well, wait a minute. The old war machine from the United States, and we know who they were, the cabal, right? The old war machine, they always had to have a villain. So in my era, the 1960s, I was brought up on a military base. It was a spy station in the 60s, and we spied on the Russians. So the Russians were the bad guys. And then shortly after that, it was Chairman Mao, it was China. And then after that, it became, some of the Middle East, it became Vietnam, Grenada, for goodness sakes, small little island, like how can that be an enemy? But it became an enemy, and more wars. And when I was thinking about that even this morning, I thought, this is all about blood. Right? Yep. Our whole time here with the cabal is about blood and about children.
Yep.
So we think about, a vampire state. If they are all about blood, right? The adrenochrome, the drinking of blood. what better way to get blood going and people missing and all of a sudden gone is through wars, right?
Correct.
Spreading that blood, spreading the chaos, spreading the confusion, separating families. Oh, well, he's missing in war. Well, where did he actually go, or she actually go? So when I look at, you know, how we've been played for my lifetime, right from the 60s, early 60s, you can see how we were fear-mongered with different cultures all the way through. And I often joke that I had a fiance who was Russian. And for the longest time, I was like, you know, when I first started to date him, I thought, oh God, I don't know if I could do this, because he was the enemy to me when I was very little. You know, we used to hear the planes going over and we'd have to run for cover because the Russians were coming. And now, you know, I look back and I think, oh my God, were we ever played, right? All the different cultures. And the latest was the Muslims. And now it's becoming the ETs. You know, and we've heard so much about the false flags and, you know, perhaps a false invasion, that they have the technology. So heads up, right? You know?
Well, isn't it interesting how you say we've been played? But I just had a vision in my head, which is a bit naughty, but quite funny, about if you get two women turning up to an event like a wedding in the same dress, they get a bit upset. That doesn't happen in the Middle East because they're all wearing the same.
It's true. Well, you know, so this is an interesting thing that was shared with me. I got to hang out with a lot of Muslim women, and I love them. Oh my gosh, they were funny and certainly not suppressed. And we had a really lovely dinner. And as my girls and I were about to leave, one of them said, well, we actually wanted to talk to you about some interesting topics. And I was like, interesting? Well, it was a really interesting conversation. She goes, no, we want to talk about, you know, stuff, girl talk. And I was like, oh, okay. My girls are old enough. We can talk about this in front of you. And so we started to talk about sex. And wow, it was eye-opening, because I always thought that, you know, what we've been taught in the West was these women were suppressed. No, not at all. And in with the abaya, the outfit that they wear, they actually, the woman that I was speaking with, she goes, I tease my husband in the morning and he thinks about me all day long. I got to tell you. So when he comes home, you know, he knows, right? And she gets into the most beautiful lingerie underneath the abaya, and she feels sexy, she feels beautiful, and then, right, she...
There's a lot of things that we don't know about. Like, I remember talking to some of the sheikhs about Eid after Ramadan. So when Ramadan's finished, because technically they're not supposed to have sex during Ramadan, technically.
Right.
Oh, they can't wait till Eid because they're nice and clean and fresh. And that's how they talk about it. And I'm like, man, I've never heard that.
Well, I got to tell you, I've never met such a clean culture, because they bathe 5 times a day with the prayers. You know, that was another thing I didn't know about, was that with every time that they pray, they wash their hands, they wash their feet, they wash their face, they wash, you know, they literally bathe 5 times a day. And yet the media had us believing that, you know, Muslims were dirty and slimy and, you know, ooh, right? Well, I've never met such a beautiful culture. Me being Aboriginal, I'm Native, Canadian, Aboriginal, and our faiths were very similar, I found. They were about the earth, loving one another, you know, honoring the earth, honoring Mother Nature, honoring each other. And the faiths were very, very similar. And I know that some people will pan and go, oh, well, you know, have you looked at the Quran? And, you know, yeah, there's some parts, but have you looked at the Bible?
Exactly.
You know? I mean, there's some parts in the Bible that you would go, okay, I'm supposed to, you know, whip, you know.
An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah. So it's all what you filter, and it's all what you perceive, and that's what you spoke to earlier was it's all
one of the things I loved though at iftar, the breaking of the fast at the end of each day. Most of the time they served a lamb biryani,
right?
and you'd all eat together, and most of them would use their hands for serving themselves. But this was a process that the sheikhs used to watch to see who helped who. And we have a term in the Christian world that we break bread together.
Right.
They have the same terminology. They won't do business with you until they've broken bread with you, until they've eaten with you. And they watch to see if you just feed yourself or if you help others.
That's right.
Before they do business with you. So eating a biryani and having it on the middle of the table for you all to help yourself. Do you help yourself, or do you help the man next to you as well as yourself? And this gives them a good insight into how your mind works from a business point of view. And I think that's really nice. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's also what your heart is like, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And we did the same thing. When I first met the Sheikh, he came to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and I organized his tour for him. And my daughter was Miss Teen Canada, and she was speaking. And so they shared a stage, and then I just kind of took over, kind of like your book.
Yeah.
And just started organizing things. So anyways, he brought us to a Muslim community in Edmonton. I didn't even know this community existed. It was in the Northeast area, and it was a large community. And when we walked in there, there was apprehension with some of the people that lived there towards us, as well as us towards them, because they were fed, through the media that they had to fear the Caucasians, even though I don't look Indian, but the Caucasians, as much as the Caucasians had to fear the Muslims. And so you could feel at first there was a bit of, and then I realized, no, it was just me. They were actually being really warm, really loving towards me. It was my own fear that was being mirrored back to me. And so when we went into the restaurants, whatever, and they didn't know the Sheikh at first, right? He was just, and so the warmth was so beautiful. It was so loving, and the food, oh my God.
Oh, the food's amazing.
Yeah. So you're lucky to have the beautiful wife that you have, and she's lucky to have you. And I loved hearing about it. And hearing about it, auditory reading in your book about it. It was beautiful.
Amazing.
You even have your wedding picture in here. I just went past it. Yeah, it's awesome.
Even on my my own web page. That's it. On my own web page, we've actually put our wedding. We put our wedding video on my web page. On the About Me section.
Awesome.
About Me section, there's our wedding video, which is a 6-minute video of our whole wedding. So it shows people what we're about and who we are.
Yeah. So recently I saw someone poo-pooing you and, saying some negative things, and same with Sasha Stone. And I thought, this is a divide and conquer kind of mentality again. And we really have to stick together. Whether, some people believe that, there's an ulterior motive here or not. Look inside, check inside, and I think you've done more good for this movement, that's for sure. And that's why I believe in you. You're doing well. So.
I'm talking to Sasha in an hour's time.
Are you? Oh, he just wrote me, or actually his assistant wrote me yesterday. So I'm. We'll see what happens.
No, I think the world of him.
Well, say hi to him for me.
I will.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, I've got him and Michael Tellinger on in an hour's time.
Oh, fantastic. Michael Tellinger. Well, One Small Town in Bhutu. I have such admiration for him. Yeah, fabulous. Well, say hello to them both, and love to do a show with all of you guys, because that would be really interesting.
Sure.
Lots to talk about.
Well, thank you very, very much. And thank you for all of your work with the book. And we'll put the link down below so that we can take you to where to get the book, etc.
For sure.
Well, it's on Amazon, isn't it? Anyway.
It is. It's on Amazon in any country that the listeners are listening from. There's 17 countries now that we've got it up and running in. So
perfect.
Okay. Take care, dear.
Thank you very much. Lots of love.
Bye now.
Bye.